My racist mother-in-law lunged at me with a weapon. My fiance has 24 hours to choose between us. My mother-in-law hated me from the moment she found out I existed, and it all comes down to the fact that I'm black. The first time I met her, my boyfriend at the time told me beforehand that his mom had a rough sense of humor and to try not to take things personally. I should have seen that for the red flag it was. We walked into her house and she looked me up and down and asked my boyfriend if he was going through a phase. He laughed nervously and I stood there frozen. Over the next few months, her comments got worse. She asked me if I knew my real father. She asked me why my hair did that. She made a joke about welfare when I mentioned I grew up in an apartment. Every single time, my boyfriend would tell me afterwards that she didn't mean it like that she was just old-fashioned, that I was being too sensitive. I stopped going to her house. I told my boyfriend that I loved him, but I refused to sit in a room with someone who treated me like I was less than human. He seemed to understand, and for a while things were better. He visited his mom alone, I stayed home, and we were happy. He proposed a year later, and I said yes. That's when the argument started. He wanted his mother at the wedding. I told him absolutely not. He said she was his only living parent, and he couldn't imagine getting married without her there. I told him I couldn't imagine getting married with her there, making comments about how our future kids would turn out. We went back and forth for weeks. Then one day I got a text from her. She thanked me for finally coming around and said she couldn't wait to celebrate her baby's big day. I had no idea what she was talking about until I checked the wedding website and saw she had been added to the guest list. My boyfriend had done it behind my back. When he got home, I didn't yell. I told him calmly that we were going to drive to his mother's house and have a conversation, all three of us, because clearly something needed to be resolved before this wedding happened. He agreed. We drove over and she greeted us at the door with a smile like nothing had ever happened between us. We sat in her living room and I tried to explain how her words had affected me over the years. I told her that I wasn't asking for an apology for the past. I just needed to know that she could treat me with basic respect going forward. She told me I was being dramatic. She said she didn't have a racist bone in her body and that I was looking for reasons to be offended. My boyfriend sat there and said nothing. I told her that if that was her attitude, then she would not be at the wedding. She laughed and looked at my boyfriend, expecting him to override me. He stayed quiet. Her face changed. She stood up and told me I had no right to keep her from her son's wedding. I stood up too and told her I had every right to decide who was welcome at my own ceremony. She took a step toward me and called me a word I won't repeat here. I turned to leave. That's when she grabbed a glass vase off the side table and swung it at my head. I raised my arm to block it and it shattered against my forearm. I screamed. My boyfriend finally moved. He grabbed his mother and pulled her back, but she was thrashing and screaming that I had ruined her son's life. I ran out the front door with blood running down my arm and called the police from the driveway. When they arrived, she tried to tell them I had attacked her first. My boyfriend told them it wasn't as bad as it looked, but she had a Ring doorbell that caught me walking out with blood on my arm and her screaming through the window. They arrested her on the spot. I got 7 stitches at the emergency room. My boyfriend sat in the waiting room the entire time, but when he came in after the doctor left, the first thing he said was asking if I really had to call the police on his mother. I looked at him and felt something in me go cold. When we got back to our apartment, I told him I needed time to think. He asked what there was to think about. I told him his mother had just put me in the hospital and his first instinct was to worry about her. I told him that I loved him, but I couldn't marry someone who wouldn't protect me. I gave him a choice. Either he cuts contact with his mother completely or the engagement is over. He asked how he was supposed to just abandon his mom. I told him I wasn't asking him to abandon her. I was asking him to choose. That was 2 days ago. He's been sleeping in the guest room. He keeps saying he needs more time. I told him this morning that he has until midnight tonight to give me an answer. It's 6 p.m. now. He's been on the phone with her for the last hour. Full story linked below.